ready. We're ready for the PSNI just whenever you're ready to go. So as what normally can happen at a lot of RTCs, the PSNI may be first in attendance, and that's what's happened in this case. So he's going to go over and question the driver and see what the incident is. Don't you think this boy looks a wee bit worse for wear? I'm not sure. He looks like he's getting breathalyzed. I would like to be in his shoes.
Breath testing after all accidents is mandatory. Plus this time of year, the drink drive campaign, it's going to be more prevalent. There'll be random stops, checks, carried out in the lead up, especially for Christmas here.
So what you're saying is, at every accident, every car accident, the driver will be breathalyzed?
Yes. Yes.
There you go. I don't think this guy's going to pass it. Okay, what's your thoughts on that reading?
Fail.
He's a fail, and what happens next?
It gives us grounds for an arrest to take him back to the station here. So we Strand Road, and they give an evidential specimen.
Okay, so we're just going to run through a quick arrest sort of scenario. This guy has failed his breath test. He's going to now be arrested, taken to Strand Road for further investigation. Feel free to boo him if you want. Okay, so the fire service, we're now going to take over our section. We're going to do a cut and extricate the single casualty. So this casualty is trapped inside this car. So Kevin O'Sullivan is going to be the OIC, he's going to be the guy in charge of this incident. So when you first of all come to an incident, Kevin, like this here, what sort of things do you do? Do you look after safety, or what's your first sort of things?
You have to assess the scene, Brian. Just look and see. Look at the scene, many cars, many people, and try and block off the road so we can protect ourselves as well. And then we make access first. We contact the casualty, assess their condition. Do we need to get them straight away, get them out quickly? It's a time critical.
Okay, got that. So do you have a medic here, somebody who's going to deal with that first part? Okay, I'll let you go ahead with the incident. So you see, one of the first things the guys are doing, they have a thing called a steering wheel restraint. So they put that on over the steering wheel, and it is when airbags deploy, sometimes in higher end cars after the first initial impact, the airbag may initially deploy, but with a higher end car they can deploy a second time. So putting a steering wheel restraint or an airbag restraint on, it gives us a wee bit of protection of the car. You see, you can be very, very violent when they do go off. So other things, that guy inside, that guy is F+ trained, so he's a higher level of medical standard than the majority of firemen. So he's going in there, he's going to chat to the casualty, he's going to see if there's any medical history, find out what sort of injuries they've got. He's going to look in around their feet to see if there's any feet entrapment, and he's going to be looking into their eyes, seeing if the back, neck, any sort of spinal injuries. So he's our first protocol. Ideally we would have NIAS here, the ambulance service, but they're on the route to this incident, they haven't got here yet, so it's up to us to start attending with the casualty. Other things you'll see the guys doing, you'll see they're putting chocks and blocks around the edge of the car. The reason for this is the car needs to be as stable as possible. If the casualty inside the car has got neck or back injuries, with us climbing in and out of the car can rock back and forward, which can cause additional harm or injuries. So we want to stabilise the car before we get inside it. You'll also see on the glass all around the car, you'll see labels and things. This is like a strong, sticky cling film called Pac-X. The reason we put this on is we're going to be breaking lots of glass over this car, but if we put this sticky material either side of the glass, it'll keep all the shards of glass down and protects us so we're not breathing them in, and also so they're not going to be in round the casket. So Kevin, who's in charge of this incident, he's detailing to the crew what he needs to be done. He's told a couple of guys, he said he wants the boot open. He's told a couple of the other guys saying I want doors open. This is called simultaneous activity, where we've different guys in the crew doing different jobs. Has anybody any questions on what we're doing so far? Somebody can give me a question.
Why are there masks, gold?
Okay, these are new fire helmets that we've got now at the minute. The reason for the gold masks is not so people can't see us, but it's just a reflective cover that's put on them. So if we're working in a sunny, bright environment, it's not going to annoy us. So you see these colours the guys are using now, whenever we're finished using them, we'll take them around the crowd, we'll let people feel the weight of them and get a closer look at them. Commonly known Jaws of Life, but these are like a Halmatro version. They're called now, they're made from a company, Halmatro. So these are battery operated, very heavy things, but you notice actually how quiet they are. The older ones we would have had were hydraulic, very noisy, very difficult to operate, but these newer versions, the battery operated ones, are fantastic. Oh, I have a question. This is Derry City's #1 supporter. So can I have your name please?
Michael Barr. Cut the car of the person. Use cut the.
No. The question, the answer to that would be no. Our thing is we would have to assess the casualty. If the casualty can be a step-out casualty, and the casualty doesn't have any significant back or injuries, if the casualty can be stepped out, we would always step out. But we would generally cut the car. If the casualty has any injuries that if we were to move them or manipulate them, it would cause further harm to them, we would then, it's actually called space creation. We're creating as much space as possible to get into the casualty. So I'll try and talk about different items of equipment that the guys are using here at the minute. So I'll take one of these teardrops. You can all see the shape of this. We just call that a teardrop. And what we would do, we would put a teardrop between the casualty and the tool that we're using. But you heard a bang or a pop there. There's these cutting equipment, they're so strong. They're cutting through most metals. Bits of metal, bits of glass can spring off and hit the casualty. So we use a teardrop to protect the casualty. So looking at this car, this is a fairly standard, fairly easy cut car. There's other difficult vehicles out there. For example, if we had an accident with a police car will have bulletproof and explosion-proof glass. All the doors will be reinforced with steel. We just can't cut them. We really struggle to cut them. And our issues then is if we have to gain access to a police car, we have to spread the door open and rip the door off. It's not so much cutting the metal, it's ripping the metal away. There's other vehicles which are much more difficult to work at. Some postal vehicles, some money carrying vehicles, army vehicles, lorries. So this is a fairly simple one. Okay, Kevin, you've got a wee second. So what's your plan now, Kevin?
Right, so what we've done is we're just taking off anything that can, we have two plans, we have an A plan and a B plan. So one plan is take them out safely, weigh as much space as we can. The second plan is if anybody gets compromised, get them out as quickly as possible, which can be just following them out, which is what we've done here now. The plan now is to manage the glass, and we're going to take a roof off.
Okay, so I'll just explain a wee bit more about the A and the B plan that Kevin was alluding to there. So our A plan would really be everything's going fine, we'll have no time constraints, we're not panicking, so we would create as much space as possible. Our B plan would be if the casualty's severely ill, critically ill and needs to come out of a car quickly, we need to have the B plan in place first of all. So if you can imagine an accident where the dashboard would be pushed in on the casualty, the pedals can be trapped in around the casualty's feet, so we would have to have our B plan in place first. Our plan in that case would be moving the pedals and casualties feet free, so if we needed to, we could drag and go. If you can imagine the casualty stop breathing whilst we're working on them, we have to get them out and start CPRs. I'll see if we can get an update on the casualties condition here. Have you got a second to talk? So tell me, how's the casualty doing?
Casualty's nice and relaxed.
Has the casualty any back pain there?
Yeah, a wee bit of back pain, a wee bit of neck pain.
Okay, so the casualty's got back and neck pain, hence why we're going to do a full roof removal. We want to take the casualty out as horizontal as possible. We don't want to be twisting their back or neck at any point here. Any other questions in the crowd? Anybody? Feel free to ask anything, not football scores. So what we're actually going to do now, we're actually going to invite one of the medics for St John's Ambulance over, and they can take over casualty care of the casualty in the passenger seat. Are you okay? Sorry, what's your name?
Anna,
Okay, Anna, when you're going over to assess this casualty, what would be the first sort of things you would be thinking about looking for?
just making sure that they have an airway, there's no breathing difficulties, and checking where their pain is to see how we're going to move them out of the vehicle as well. So we're basically looking for any major injuries.
Okay, Anna, so Anna would be, Anna and the personnel in the NIAS, the ambulance service, would be higher trained medically than us. So we would get them in, assess the casualty, and then we would try to be taking a bit of our lead as to what we're going to do with the casualty from them. So you go on, make your start, make your assessment, Anna, thank you. So does anybody know if it's a petrol or diesel car? Sensible questions, please. So, hold on, sorry. What's your name? Adam. Okay, Adam, and what is your question?
What happens when there's airbags?
Okay, so we have to do full assessment, and it's called SRS, so we have safety restraint systems. Lots of cars, especially high-end cars now, will have multiple airbags, multiple sort of protection systems all throughout them. Now what we can do, before we start cutting the car, we have to do a thing called peel and reveal, where we reveal all the plastics at the side, we look for the airbags. We also have, in the front of all of our fire engines, we have a computer system, and on that computer system there's a system called crash recovery. Crash recovery, we can log in, we can put a car registration in, we can put a car make, a model in, and it'll give us all the locations in that car where an airbag could be, it'll give us cut positions. What a lot of cars actually have now, you all know what a QR code is. A lot of newer cars, when you open your door, have a look at your car till you go. When you open your door, you might see along the edge of the door a QR code. And anybody can scan a QR code on their mobile phone. You scan that QR code, it'll tell you specific information which is beneficial for us. It'll maybe not help you as a driver, but it'll show us where your airbags are, where airbag restraints are, where cut locations are, fuel types, battery isolation. It'll tell us all those things just off a QR code. So thank you for your question, Alan. Any other questions? So I'll just talk you through again what they're doing. They're cutting now, there's 3 different posts in this car. It's an A, B and a C. So they're always labelled front to back. So at the windscreen's A post, B post, C post. Generally what you do, you cut all the posts and you leave the ones at the casualty till last. You want to keep the car as secure as possible until the last moment. Then the roof is taken away. Then. Okay, Anna, what's your assessment of the casualty? What are you thinking? Is this casualty time critical?
Not at the minute, but he is. We're clearing a spinal because of his neck and back pain. So that's why we want to get him out using the spinal board. Not worried about his breathing, all his labs and all are okay. So from that point of view, he is fine. It's just, we don't want to have any life-limiting injuries here.
Okay, thank you for that. So what you're saying is he's not time critical, so we have enough time to be able to work, create as much space as possible, but he does have back and neck injuries. Are you happy? We're thinking about taking him on a board, taking him out horizontally at the back. Are you happy with that? Okay, thank you. So there's a quick and easy way to make it convertible. If anybody needs a convertible done, just give us a shout at the station and we'll sort it for you at any time. So you'll see the guy at the front of the car, Peter, unzipping a bag at the minute. I'm just going to have a word with Peter. Peter, so you are going to fit sharps protection. Could you explain to me what these are?
Yeah, so obviously once we cut the car, you have an awful lot of glass and sharp through the metal. It can be a hazard to us and the crews working around it. So what we're going to do is now just put these big covers over it and try and protect it as much as we can.
Thank you, Peter. So these big luminous yellow covers, they're luminous, again, nighttime for us working at nighttime, make things as visible and obvious as possible. They've also got magnets in every corner, so you see them sticking to the metal, sticking to the bonnet. But what our guys will do, they'll cover all the sharps around the car, because whilst we're still working in there, lots of sharp metal, it's a massive hazard.
We'll put a seatbelt, we'll use a seatbelt around Jerry, because we've got a heavier lads.
I'm sorry, are you saying we've got a slightly larger casualty here than normal?
Casualty here, so we're thinking about some sort of sling.
Okay, if anybody's any more questions, feel free to ask anything. I can explain anything we're doing here as we'll go through it. So has anybody spotted what fuel type? Is this a petrol? Is this diesel? Is this electric? Does anybody know? Anybody? I'm going to take a word for it. I'll check. So, can anybody think there's other fuel types out there. Electric now is posing a massive problem to us because they're so newly coming onto the market and they're becoming much more common. But problems we would have with electric cars is, if you can think about a Tesla at the minute, Teslas have batteries which are almost the size of the bottom of the car. If you have a phone and a battery within a phone, you've all seen things about Samsung phones and other phones years ago where they can become almost explosive and volatile. So, and that's a wee battery that size. You can imagine a Tesla battery, or one of those batteries if they do go on fire in the floor pan of a car, how violent and volatile it could be. Our main concerns is now if we have RTCs involved in those cars, these batteries can be bent and twisted underneath. So we talked about our B plan earlier on that we need to get a plan in place that we have to get a person drag and go. So with electric cars, our B plan is really important. That's our main concentration part. We have our B plan in this case would have been get the door where the casualty is on, free his feet. And although we don't want to move a casualty with spinal injuries, but if we are in a situation where it's more and more dangerous, or a car starts to go on fire, or the casualty isn't breathing, we just have to grab and go and get that casualty in the car. That's the priority. Life is the priority. But what we would always do, we don't have it set up at this, in any RTC we're at, we will always have a hose reel or some sort of fire protection. We actually do have extinguishers here, but that was more so for recording. But we'll always have some sort of fire protection, because if at any point, whilst we're working at this car, it goes on fire, we have to be able to deal with it very quickly. So they're getting ready to move the casualty now. There's different techniques they're using. They've actually cut a seatbelt from the car and have the seatbelt wrapped underneath his arms. And that can help us move the casualty up just up a few inches to be able to get a good grab on them. So they're slowly lowering the seat back. They've got a thing, it's actually called a spine board. When we're at an instance, it's never called a spine board. There's a clear and obvious reason for that. The last thing you want to be doing is alerting the casualty that there could be an issue with their spine. So at an incident, we would just call it a board, or a long board. But you see what they're going to do now. They're going to grab Jerry in all different positions, and a few inches at a time, they're going to slowly bring him up this board. They want to get him horizontal on this board. So I'm going to let us listen to some of the calls that's happening here. Right, so what we'll do, the guy on the head here, who is Tommy, sorry for blocking your vision, I was going to be passed over. Right, so the guy, he has now been passed over. This guy at the back, Aaron, he's in charge of the casualty's head. So it's Aaron he's in charge of the casualty's movements. Hey!
Get it over there, okay?
So, what Aaron was doing, Aaron was the person, he was dictating the pace of how quickly the casualty came out and how many movements were happening. He was in control of the head, so he's mainly in control of the whole spine. So we're at the point now where we're going to be able to hand this casualty over to St John's Ambulance. Okay, so the casualty now has now been handed over to St John's Ambulance. So could I just get you to let us know what you're doing? Do you mind speaking for a wee second? Tell us just what you're doing with the casualty now.
Basically, the casualty is on our trolley bed. We strap the casualty in. Normally, obviously, we would have the head hookers and etc. on. We're going to take the casualty into the back of the ambulance, reassess the casualty, and then obviously straight over to the hospital with full spinal support.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So, although the guys are all standing about watching now, we're just taking a wee break. There's lots of things we now do with the car. We have to make this car safe before it's taken away. Now, if at all RTCs, we have to liaise very closely with the PSNI. What we have to do, the priority is always life and the casualty, but a huge priority also is scene preservation for investigation. What we can't be doing is just willy-nilly destroying all bits of evidence and moving a car without the police's consent. So in this case, what we would be doing is isolating the battery, but recording everything we've done, letting the police know, yeah, we get in, the car was in gear when we got here, yeah, the ignition was still switched on, yeah, we've isolated the battery, and trying to preserve the scene as best as possible. You will have items all about the place. What we don't want is trip hazards, but we need to let the police know, yeah, when we came here, this is what we found in this position, this is what we found here. So Jerry, as a casualty, tell me how you get on there today.
Sorry?
How as a casualty, you get on? Were you comfortable at all the movements there?
Yeah. Good luck.
Okay, thank you Jerry. How's all about? Okay, before we wrap this incident up, is there anybody, any questions they'd like to ask us or anything on how this would progress after? Anything at all? Any questions there? Even from the crew. How did the crew, Solid, how did you think the crew went?
Hi, very well. Got it done quickly, got them out. I keep plans in place. Stand over the colleagues in the ambulance service.
Thank you very much, and nobody's injured, everybody's all hurt. So as for us, a successful cut. So listen, thank you everybody who stayed to watch this. We're probably going to be doing another one in about half an hour's time. Thank you very much.